Welcome back, America. We've chronicled many instances where companies that went woke ended up going broke and ran into the resistance of American people. Now school districts are facing the same thing, including one in my own home county, Prince William County, Virginia. Joining me now, Terry Schilling, president of the American Principals Project, who's keeping a close eye on that. Terry, good to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, John.
All right, you got these Virginia school districts. One of them's mine, Prince William. They don't want to comply with the president's transgender executive orders. Tell us what they're putting at risk for their students and their parents.
Well, thanks again for having me, John. So I'm a Northern Virginia resident. I live in Fairfax County. 4 years ago, I had to pull my kids out of Fairfax County public schools because of how bad the education system has gotten. And now they're just making matters worse. So President Trump and Linda McMahon, the Department of Education Secretary, gave these 5 counties in Northern Virginia until last Friday to comply with Title IX, which means don't allow boys into women's sports or their locker rooms or shower rooms. That's the girls, that is. And these 5 districts all said, go pound sand. And they're willing to risk federal dollars, $160 million, by the way, in Fairfax County alone. Wow. So all in all, John, we're talking about these progressive transgender activists willing to put hundreds of millions of dollars on the line just to put boys in our daughters' locker rooms and showers. It's absolutely appalling.
It's just mind-numbing. I mean, they're going to put a lot of programs at risk by losing that funding for an issue that less than 20% of Americans even support. I mean, they just seem to be completely disconnected from middle America. Does this go to the courts next, do you think? Or do you think President Trump just says, see you later, I will keep the money, thank you?
No, so the counties are going to sue, and they're going to basically try and hope that the courts bail them out. However, the state of Idaho had just won a major lawsuit with ADF when they came under a lawsuit under the same pretenses. So we expect that President Trump and his administration will prevail. Our daughters, by the way, will prevail. Our families will. John, I don't think you're in Prince William County, but you remember just 4 years ago in Loudoun County, the Loudoun County School District tried to cover up not one, but 2 sexual assaults done by a male in the female restroom. This is obviously something that should not happen to anyone, let alone happen twice. But these school districts in Northern Virginia are quite corrupt.
Yeah, and these are real examples. I mean, it isn't a hypothetical threat. Those are 2 real cases that showed exactly the danger that these policies have had. I want to turn to electoral politics, just because the president this morning, on a busy day when he was going to be hosting European leaders, played a little mischief in politics, saying, you know what, I'm going to do an executive order and ban mail-in ballots. I think a lot of Americans like that idea. You look at the polling, it seems like people have a lot of distrust of this. How disruptive could this be if he were to do that in time for the 26th election?
John, I think that'd be incredibly disruptive, especially to the Democrats and all of their voter fraud efforts. Personally, I signed up for automatic absentee in Northern Virginia. I kind of like it because I don't miss any more elections. But we've seen how these blue states and how these corrupt local officials and activists have abused the mail-in balloting system. So I fully support President Trump here. Show up in person, be a responsible individual. If you can't remember what day election day is, maybe you shouldn't be voting.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And other countries do it just fine. They don't need a month. They don't need 6 weeks. They get it done. So let me talk a little bit about the left's response as its agenda is getting exposed and President Trump is literally stripping it down. There's this sort of answer that the left gives that, it's okay to be politically correct. In fact, it's the cool thing to be, but actually they ignore all the safety, all the other obvious issues that most Americans see with their eyes. Why the disconnect? Why haven't they realized where the American people are?
Well, look, I think that the Democrats have locked themselves into a really terrible ideology. I think that their base has grown very radical. And frankly, when it comes to the voter fraud efforts and the voter integrity efforts that President Trump is trying to support, I think that they've become dependent on allowing illegal immigrants to vote, on allowing voter fraud and the abuses of our system. And they wouldn't win as many elections without this type of fraud. Some of these precincts are just absolutely atrocious with how the vote has gone down. I've seen these the signatures and the mail-in ballots in the 2020 election in Georgia, for example. I mean, there's obviously fraud here. There's nothing wrong with showing up to the polls, giving them a copy of your photo ID, which you need for everything in your entire life, including to have a house, have a job, buy
That's right.
things. You need a photo ID for everything. And the left doesn't want to do it because it cuts into their system of fraud and corruption. And so I think it's very obvious right now that the Democrats are a terrible party. They're corrupt, and they don't have America's best interests at heart.
You said once, it only takes a little bit of courage to do something that the American people want, and that's been shown time and again, including your great group. For folks who want to follow American Principles Project, what's the best way to stay in touch with it, Terry?
Well, two things. Check us out at AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. We're building the NRA, but for families. So we treat the family as the most important and powerful special interest group in the country. And then follow me on X or any social media platforms at Schilling 1776.
I love it. An easy one to remember. Terry, great to finish up the show with you today. Thanks for joining us, folks. I can't believe the hour just zoomed by. Don't worry, Amanda will be back on Wednesday. You got to fly solo again with me tomorrow, but we'll be back with her on Wednesday. Until then, we're going to hand things off to Grant Stinchfeld. Have a great night.